I still remember the exact vibration of my phone in my hand. It was 9:47 p.m. Rain was sliding down the windshield in slow, crooked lines, and my headlights were cutting through fog like dull knives. I had just pulled into the grocery store parking lot, the same one I'd been going to since high school, the one across from the old strip mall where Mom used to buy my prom dress. My phone buzzed. Not a call, a message. From Mom. "We changed all the locks on the front door and also the gate. Don't come here anymore." For a second, I thought it was a mistake, like maybe she sent it to the wrong person. Maybe it was meant for Dad, or for my brother. But my name was in the next line. "Rachel, this is final." I stared at the screen so long my eyes started to sting. The rain sounded louder. The engine idled rough. A cart clanged somewhere behind me. I typed back, "Mom, what are you talking about?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. I called. It rang once, twice, straight to voicemail. "Mom, it's me. I don't understand. Did something happen? Please call me." I hung up and tried again. Blocked. That was when my stomach dropped. You know that feeling when your body knows something before your mind does? When your chest tightens and your throat goes dry and you can't even name the fear yet? That was me, sitting alone in my car, grocery list still open on the seat, blurring the world, holding a phone that suddenly felt heavier than it should. I hadn't fought with my mother. Not recently. Not at all. In fact, 3 days earlier, she'd asked me to come over Sunday for dinner. She'd said she missed me. She'd said, "You've been working too much, sweetheart. You look tired." Nothing felt wrong. And now this. I drove to their house anyway. I don't even remember deciding. My hands just turned the wheel. My foot hit the gas. The whole way there, my phone stayed silent. No reply. No missed calls. The neighborhood lights came into view, soft yellow pools on wet asphalt. The same quiet street, the same mailbox with our last name still on it. Except when I pulled up, something felt off immediately. The gate. It was closed. It was never closed. My parents lived in that house for 28 years, and that gate had been open every single day of my life. It was decorative more than anything. White wood, a little crooked, squeaked when the wind hit it. Now it was shut, and there was a new lock. Shiny, heavy, industrial. I got out of the car, rain soaking my jacket, and walked up to it slowly. "Mom?" I called. No answer. I rattled the gate. Locked. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I walked up the driveway, past the flower beds my mother still weeded by hand, up to the front door. The handle didn't move. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked harder. "Mom, Dad, it's me." Lights were on inside. The living room lamp. The kitchen light. I could see shadows moving. Someone was home. "Mom, please." The door didn't open. I pressed my forehead against the wood, rain dripping down my face, and my phone buzzed again. Another message. From Mom. "Do not make a scene. You are not welcome here anymore." I slid down onto the porch steps and just sat there. People drove past. One slowed, then kept going. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my phone. I felt like I was 8 years old again, locked out after curfew, except this time I hadn't done anything wrong. At least, not that I knew. That night I slept in my car, because I didn't have anywhere else to go. I'd moved back to this town only 4 months earlier after my engagement fell apart and my life in Chicago collapsed in on itself like wet paper. Mom had said, "Come home, we'll help you get back on your feet." And now home was locked. The next morning, I went to work on 2 hours of sleep and a headache that felt like it was splitting my skull. I worked as a billing coordinator at a small medical office. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the rent on my tiny 1-bedroom and kept the lights on. Or it had, because at lunch I checked my bank account. The balance was lower than it should have been. Much lower. 2 withdrawals I didn't recognize. Large ones from a joint savings account. An account I hadn't touched in months. An account that still had my mother's name on it. My chest tightened. I called the bank. The woman on the line was polite, too polite. Yes, Miss Carter, those withdrawals were authorized by the account holder. I am the account holder. Yes, ma'am, both account holders. I swallowed. Did my mother make them? I'm not allowed to disclose individual transaction identities, but they were made in person. In person. At the branch near my parents' house. The same day I got that message. I hung up and just stared at my desk. Something wasn't just wrong. Something was happening. Something I wasn't being told. That evening I drove back again. Stupid. Desperate. Hopeful. The gate was still locked. The door still closed. This time, my father came to the window. I saw him. Gray hair, glasses. The man who used to carry me on his shoulders at the county fair. He looked at me. And then he turned away. Didn't open the door. Didn't wave. Didn't mouth my name. He just vanished back into the house. I screamed. I don't even remember what I said. I just remember my voice cracking, my throat burning, my fists pounding the door until they ached. A neighbor's porch light came on. Someone opened a curtain. I left before the police could be called. That night, I didn't cry. I just lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling, replaying every conversation I'd had with my parents over the last year, trying to find the moment everything broke. And then my phone buzzed. Not a message, a call, from an unknown number. I answered. Rachel Carter? A man's voice said. Yes? This is Officer Daniel Ruiz with the County Police Department. We need to speak with you. My heart slammed into my ribs. About what? There's been a report filed in your name. What kind of report? A financial misconduct complaint. The room felt like it tilted. I didn't file anything. Your mother did. Silence stretched between us. Ma'am, we'd like you to come in and give a statement. My hands were ice cold. When? Tomorrow morning. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed and laughed. It came out shaky and wrong. Financial misconduct. I was being accused of stealing from my own parents, the people who had raised me, who had hugged me when my fiancé walked out, who had told me I could always come home. And suddenly, I wasn't just locked out, I was being erased. The next day, in a beige room that smelled like old coffee and disinfectant, I told my story to a man who barely looked up from his notepad. I told him I hadn't taken anything, that I didn't even know about the withdrawals, but my mother sent me that message, that they'd changed the locks. He nodded, wrote, nodded again. Do you have proof of any of this? He asked. Proof that my mother locked me out? Any written communication, any witnesses, any documentation that would support your version. I showed him the text. He studied it. Your mother says this message was sent after repeated arguments regarding money and boundaries. That's a lie. She says you became verbally aggressive. That's a lie. She says you threatened legal action if they didn't continue to support you. My chest burned. That's a lie. He closed the folder. We'll be in touch. As I walked out, my legs felt weak. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a narrative, and I was not the one controlling it. That week, my access to the joint account was removed. My credit card was suddenly declined. A notice arrived in the mail about an outstanding loan I didn't recognize. My name was being used, my history was being rewritten, and my mother wouldn't answer a single call. I started to wonder if I was losing my mind, if maybe I had done something and forgotten, if maybe I was the problem. Until the envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a copy of a property deed, my parents' house, and my name was on it. Not as owner, but as guarantor, and the date was 6 months earlier, a date when my mother had asked me to just sign some paperwork for insurance updates. I remembered it, the kitchen table, her coffee, her pen pushed toward me. Just routine, sweetheart. I hadn't even read it. My hands started shaking again, because now I understood. I wasn't just being pushed away, I was being positioned, and I had no idea yet for what. And that was the moment I realized, whatever my parents were planning, they needed me locked out first, and I was already too late.
I didn't sleep after that. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's handwriting, her careful loops, her signature on forms I hadn't read, her voice in my head, soft and calm. Just routine, sweetheart. By morning, my jaw hurt from clenching it. I went to the county recorder's office on my lunch break. The building was old, gray, and smelled like dust and paper, the kind of place where secrets lived quietly in file cabinets. I gave the clerk my name. She typed. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "There are several documents associated with you here." My stomach dropped. "Can I see them?" She slid a stack of copies across the counter. Loan agreements, refinancing forms, a second mortgage, a business credit application, all tied to my parents' address, all tied to my social security number, all signed. By me, except I hadn't signed them. Not like this. The signatures were close enough to pass, but not mine. Forgery. And suddenly the story my parents were telling made sense. They weren't locking me out because I was a problem. They were locking me out because I was the liability. I drove straight to the house again. I didn't care if the neighbors stared. I didn't care if the police were called. I needed answers. I stood at the gate and shouted, "Mom, Dad, I know what you did." A curtain twitched. The front door opened a few inches. My mother's face appeared. Not angry, not sad, tired. "Rachel," she said quietly, "you're making this harder than it needs to be." "Harder?" My voice cracked. "You used my identity." She looked past me, down the street. "Lower your voice. You put debt in my name." Her lips pressed together. "We did what we had to. For what? For survival." I laughed. It sounded hysterical even to me. "You ruined me." She shook her head slowly. "You were already ruined. We just redirected it." The door closed. I stood there in the rain again, shaking. That night, my father finally called. His voice sounded older, smaller. "Your mother didn't want me to," he said. "Then why are you?" I asked. Silence. "Because it's gone too far." My chest tightened. "What's gone too far?" "The money." "What money?" "The business." "What business?" Another pause. "The one we started last year." I closed my eyes. "You don't have a business. We do now." And that's when he told me about the investment group, about the opportunity, about the returns that were supposed to triple in 6 months, about the loans they took, about the payments they couldn't make. "They said it was safe," he whispered. "Your mother believed them, and you believed her. We needed more capital. So you used me? We needed someone with clean credit." My hands were numb. "They're coming after the house, Rachel." "When?" "Soon. And you think framing me will save you?" Silence again. "They said if we default, the guarantor becomes responsible." I understood then. I wasn't the villain. I was the shield. And when the collapse came, it was going to land on me. "I'm going to the police," I said. My father exhaled shakily. "They won't help you." "They will. Your mother already told them you're unstable." The word hit me like a slap. "Unstable?" "She said you've been emotional since the breakup." My stomach twisted. "And they believed her?" "She's very convincing." We hung up. I sat in my dark apartment and realized something even worse. They weren't just destroying my finances, they were destroying my credibility. The next morning, I tried to open a new bank account. Denied. I applied for a small emergency loan. Denied. I checked my credit report, and I felt like I was reading someone else's life. Debt, late payments, collections, all appearing within months, all under my name. I was being buried alive. And then the letter came, a legal notice. Foreclosure proceedings had begun, and I was listed as financially responsible. I drove back again. This time, I didn't knock. I pounded. My mother opened the door fully. Her eyes were red. "You need to stop this," I said, "before it's too late." "It already is," she replied. "You can fix it. Tell the truth." She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in her face. "If I tell the truth," she whispered, "we lose everything. And if you don't, you lose everything." I stared at her. She chose, and she closed the door in my face. That night, my phone rang again. Unknown number. "Ms. Carter," a woman said, "this is an investigator with a private firm retained by one of the lending institutions. We'd like to speak with you about potential misrepresentation and fraud." My heart pounded. "Yes," I said quietly. "When?" "Immediately." And I realized I was no longer just fighting my parents. I was now fighting the system they had pulled me into. And the worst part? Someone, somewhere, was making a lot of money off my name, and they weren't done yet.